Welcome in to another episode of Home Field Advantage. Hope you're having a great week wherever you may be across our great country or a great land. My name is Will Highland. September 16th, 2025. Been a fun week in sports. I should say a fun weekend. I mean, it's only Tuesday night when I'm recording, coming out Wednesday, the 17th. So maybe more will happen this week in the sports world, but for week two of the NFL, week three of college football, or week four of college football, depending on what you count. It's been a nice few days here. A lot of cool storylines. We had Georgia and Tennessee coming down to the end on Saturday afternoon, and then we had a full slate of NFL football on Sunday, and then into last night with a doubleheader for Monday Night Football. So, yeah, like I said, plenty of stuff there on the football bone. And then over in baseball, which I'm going to spend the second half of the show talking about, um, we we talked about this a little bit in August. Not much has changed. The American League is wide open. It's as wide open as I have seen probably since maybe the 2022 season. Extremely wide open. So it's been a few years since we've had a pennant race look like this, and it's exciting. So we're going to talk about that in the second half of the show. Where I want to begin though is winners and losers of week two of the NFL, and then I'll dive into my Patriots for a few minutes after. But uh, winners of week two. I gotta be honest here, and I'm gonna start off the show, and I'm gonna try not to pat myself on the back here, um, because I did bring this take back, and um, I I I gratuitously um, apologized for this take. However, I'm going to resurrect this take when I talk about the team that I believe is the biggest winner of week two. And I think you'll see where I'm going in a second. The San Francisco 49ers win a close game on the road against a bad Saints team. You might think, well, geez, they barely escaped that. Nope. I think that makes them a winner of week two. I think they're the biggest winner of week two. And the reason being, when you look around the league and you see some of the other teams that won, okay, the Bengals won, but they're now dealing with the Joe Burrow injury. The Rams beat the Titans. They should win that game. The Lions beat the Bears. They should win that game. The Bills beat the Jets. They should win that one. Maybe you could say that Seattle went on the road and beat Pittsburgh. Sure. I think at the end of the day, that's probably not going to mean much of anything for either one of those teams. Like, I think if Pittsburgh's going to make the playoffs, they're going to end up winning a game they shouldn't win. And maybe that's the loss they shouldn't have lost. But the rest of the NFL scoreboard, I guess the Colts improving to 2-0, but I have a better take on that I'll get to in a minute. Um, but to me, the 49ers are the biggest winner of week two. And it's because if they fall behind in that division, the way that that division is set up, you have a Seattle winning, right? You have the Rams, who I think are going to be pretty good, and then the Cardinals are sort of poking around. If the 49ers want to get back to the playoffs and get back to anything that they were used to experiencing in the last 5 to 6 years, they have to win games like they did going on the road against a bad Saints team. And they're doing all of this without Brock Purdy, which leads me to my take resurrection of Mac Jones. You may remember I was one of the last citizens left, one of the last inhabitants, castaways left on Mac Jones Island when he was a member of the Patriots. I defended him. I went to great lengths to describe how he really wasn't as bad as everybody thought he was. And then he lost his job to Bailey Zappi, who might be the worst quarterback in the history of the NFL outside of like Nathan Peterman. Okay, that's that's the Mac Jones Patriots story. The Mac Jones 49ers story is he's been given the keys to San Francisco's play call or signal call or whatever, um, as their quarterback because of this Brock Purdy situation. And Mac Jones on Sunday afternoon went, I'm reading the stat line here, 26 of 39, 279 yards and three touchdowns. I mean, that's I'm gonna look at his game log just so that I don't butcher this, but like he's only sacked three times for 12 total yards, no picks, 7.2 average. Um, his game log, I'm gonna go back to 2021. I'm just trying to find the last time he threw for 279 yards. Um, he threw for 310 in 2021 against the Titans. That was his career high that year in his rookie year. That was a great game. It was like the last time the Patriots beat a good team. Um, 2022, let's see. He threw for, yes, I almost said this, 382 against the Vikings on Thanksgiving. Um, 2023, never. I think he threw for 316 on opening night against Philly. That was a game they should have won, my goodness. And then last year, I don't think he really saw much of any action. Um, he did play down the stretch for the um, for the Jaguars, but I'm looking at this here. He never eclipsed 300. He hadn't eclipsed 270. He hadn't eclipsed 275 since week, what was that? Week 13 last year against the Jets in a loss, but he also threw two picks in that game. So like the last time that he didn't have a pick and he threw for more than 275 was week 1 in 2023. Oh no, he threw a pick that game. So I don't know if Mac Jones had ever, since Thanksgiving of 2023, I don't think Mac Jones had ever had a well, no, that was 2022. Sorry, I know this isn't great content. I'm trying to defend my Mac Jones takes. I myself have gone back to 2022 here. Um, it had been like 3 years. Let's just say this. It had been 3 years since Mac Jones had thrown for more than 275 yards and not um and not thrown an interception. So again, I know it's against a Saints team that's awful. I know that Mac Jones isn't very good, but if I have an opportunity to pad my ego a little bit, even though I sort of spent the last 3 minutes telling you how it's a rare feat, if I have a chance to tell you that Mac Jones actually had a pretty good day, uh, then I will, because it's fun and it's something to keep an eye on. Because if Mac Jones plays well in the absence of Purdy, and the 49ers are, I don't know how long Brock Purdy is going to be out, but if the 49ers have a pretty good record, I'm not going to get carried away here, but if the 49ers stick it out and play decent in the absence of Purdy, I mean, they get Arizona, they get the Jags, then they get the Rams and the Bucks. Those will be hard. Then they get Atlanta, Houston, the Giants. They get Carolina and Cleveland and Tennessee late in the year, just like the Pats do, right? They get the Bears. I mean, if Mac Jones can hold it together, I think he deserves kudos for that. So for that reason, biggest winner of the weekend. All right, biggest loser of the weekend is the Denver Broncos. Um, and the reason why they're the biggest loser of the weekend is because the Colts should have lost that game, right? They should have. The Denver should have won. Denver had them lining up for a deep field goal at the end of the game. Indianapolis was down by 2. They missed the kick. So everyone's thinking, including the announcers, oh, the Broncos, they're winning. They have won it. But then there's a flag because they touched the center or something. I don't even understand that rule. So 15-yard penalty. And then the Colts win it. And Denver, who cannot afford, they cannot afford to suck because the Chargers are 2-0. The Chiefs are not going to stay down for long. And we'll see what the Raiders are long term this season. But if the Broncos want to go back to the playoffs with a Super Bowl winning head coach, which they have, they cannot afford to lose games to the Colts. And look, the Colts have sort of proved me wrong through 2 weeks. They're 2-0. You know, they're sort of the darling of the NFL right now. Because they beat a bad Miami team, which we'll get to in a minute. And then they beat the Broncos barely. They're like now the darlings of the NFL. I'm still gonna stick to my take on the Indianapolis Colts being a bad football team at the end of the year. Um, but you know, maybe I should have known better. 25 carries, 165 yards for Jonathan Taylor. Um, that's gonna be how they win games. But they should not lose games the way that Denver did, right? Denver cannot afford to lose those games. Not when they're holding leads late against bad teams on the road in their division. I mean, you might not be able to afford many losses if you're going to try and make the playoffs. And who knows what Indianapolis will be, but your interconference record and your intra-division record mean a lot with tiebreakers. And even if the Colts end up being bad, that's where that will matter. But if the Colts end up being a fringe playoff team because they play in a bad division, then the Denver Broncos might look at that game the same way Cincinnati looked at that loss to New England last year. You cannot afford to lose games to teams that are going to be bad if you're trying to go back to the playoffs. And that's where the Patriots found themselves yesterday too, right? The Patriots did a lot of things in that football game yesterday or on Sunday that as a Patriots fan, I enjoyed. They had an offense that was functional. We talked about Mac Jones a few minutes ago. Uh, I'm not sure they ever looked like that with Mac Jones outside of a couple games in 2021. So it's been since the Brady era or maybe the Cam Newton era, if you could find me a game where they actually won that he played well in. Um, that's been it. It's been like 3, 4, 5 years since you saw a New England offense that looked functional. They got the tight ends involved. They got receivers involved. Now, Demario Douglas still seems to be in witness protection, and I haven't seen a lot of anyone not named Butte or Diggs from a receiving point of view. I know Mac Hollins got a touchdown, but like I hadn't really heard his name called otherwise all season in 2 games. But they're getting the tight ends involved. The running backs are a key point in this offense. They are the cog of the machine right now. Drake May, run under center, bootleg, play action, quick pass. I mean, they're building the offense. Josh McDaniels and Vrabel are building the offense in a way that's going to help Drake May succeed in a way that Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia couldn't do for Mac Jones. So that's good news, is that they did some things yesterday that I keep saying that, on feels like a Monday to me, guys. They did some things on Sunday that I liked. The bad news is their defense still let up way too many big plays. I mean, Achane and Tyreek Hill were doing whatever they wanted to do, and that Leon Washington kid or whatever his name is was frightening at times. So they have a lot of work to do on defense. Obviously, Christian Gonzalez has a lot to do with that, but like it's hard to harp on their defense even when they gave up 20 points on defense. You know, or 19 points on defense because of the extra point or something about the extra point, and then there was the special teams things. But like they didn't give up that many points. And at the end of the game, when push came to shove, and you were down there and it's loud, they they showed up. I mean, they sacked Tua. They got an interception late. I mean, when was the last time the Patriots went to Miami and played well? Well enough to win? What, 2019, the Antonio Brown game? I think that was it. I think that was the last time they went to Miami and played well enough to win. They didn't lose the turnover battle. The defense made plays late when it mattered. They held Miami early, gave New England a chance to get the lead and establish their game plan. That was one of the Patriots' problems in week one. Their game plan looked like it, was just printed minutes before they stepped onto the field. But New England had an opportunity on Sunday afternoon down there to play the way they wanted to play, which was balanced. There was a time in the broadcast where they talked about having 23 runs and 23 passes. And then defensively, sure, like I said, they gave up some big plays. And Miami helped them out with some stupid penalties. But at the same time, New England made some stupid penalties, and that was a really ticky-tack game. So I would say those things washed out. The special teams plays from each team washed out. And then you're left with what happened outside of those things. New England made some pretty big plays on defense, some sacks when it mattered. And Drake May, when he needed it, on third and fourth down, advanced the offense. We hadn't seen that in years. So, look, those are my takeaways for the Pats, and what it looks like to me is New England has to weather the storm a little bit, because I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I think it's important to be realistic. I hear all these people the past couple of days talking about, well, this team still sucks. This team's not good. I hear people calling the sports radio. I hear hosts on TV talking about this. This team's still not very good. Sure, maybe they're not good. But can they be better than some of the teams on their schedule that they have ahead of them? Yes, they can. Because these people, they'll say, yeah, well, Drake May played pretty well on Sunday, but this team's not very good. Well, if Drake May plays like he did on Sunday, even against a good team, you're going to have a chance to win that game. If Drake May plays like he did on Sunday against a bad team, or even remotely close to it, you should win those games. And the Patriots have a lot of those games left on their schedule. So I'm not writing them a ticket to the playoffs, but I'm also not saying that this team is a hopeless vessel headed toward a cliff like they have been in years past. I'm trying to stay really level-headed, because unlike years past, they do have a favorable schedule. Like, I used to say that there were like 7 swing games. I don't think there should be swing games on the schedule. Like, I think there are a couple swing games, but I think you can kind of look at the Patriots schedule and say, that's a winnable game or that's not a winnable game. Like, I don't think they're going to Buffalo and winning, in 3 weeks. I don't think that's happening. I don't think they're probably not going to Baltimore and winning. And they might lose to the Jets at the end of the year on the road, because that's kind of a trap game. They probably won't beat Tampa. But, like, honestly, I'm looking at literally the rest of the games, and they're kind of either a toss-up or I think the Patriots should win, based on what I've seen. And based on the fact that hopefully Vrabel has them going in the right direction. Because Pittsburgh next week, that's a toss-up. Pittsburgh didn't look great at home against the Seahawks, but they looked pretty good against the Jets in week one, so I don't really know what we're getting out of them. Is that a winnable game? Maybe. Carolina, that's a winnable game. Buffalo, they'll probably lose. The Saints on the road, that's a winnable game. The Titans on the road, that's a winnable game. The Cleveland Browns at home at Gillette on a random October afternoon, that should be a winnable game. I thought that way about Vegas last week or 2 weeks ago. Didn't happen. But I think if they continually improve, you can look at this and say it's not out of the question they win 7 games. And that would be a vast improvement based on what we've seen over the last two years. Again, that Cincinnati game now, right before Thanksgiving looks a little bit different when the Bengals aren't going to have Joe Burrow. Again, the Giants at home on a Monday night. That's a tough game. It's a winnable game. Again, they're going to lose to the Ravens. They're going to lose to the Bills. They're going to lose to Tampa Bay. They might not beat Atlanta. They might not beat Pittsburgh. There's a couple games that they're going to lose or that are going to be toss-ups. But there's certainly games that they should win. And if they play good against bad teams, that's how you win. It's not a complicated formula, folks. You start out, you beat bad teams. Then you beat mediocre teams. And then maybe you get an upset over the Bills, on the Sunday before Christmas or whatever it is. That's how that works. You go back to that 2023 season where they bottomed out. They were playing some winnable games there too. The Commanders, the Colts, the Giants, the Chargers. They lost four in a row by a combined, let's do the math here. They lost four in a row by a combined 16 points in the middle of that season. Right? They they got absolutely no contributions offensively that year. They are a better football team now. So again, if they are better in one possession games, even last year when they were bad, they lost a lot of one possession games. They lost at home to the Colts by 1 point. They lost at the Bills on the road right before Christmas by 3. They lost at home to the Dolphins in week 5 last year by 5. They lost in overtime at home to the Seahawks last year by 3. They lost at home to the Rams by 6. I was there. So it's like they lost a lot of one possession games last year. If they flip a couple one of those and continue to improve, it's not unlikely to think that they could win 7 games, maybe even 8 or 9, and then you're sniffing the playoffs. So I think Pats fans need to be realistic about what they are. They're not a good football team. They're not great, but could they be average? Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. So that's where I am at with that. Okay, speaking of a bunch of average teams, that's what the Major League Baseball playoff landscape looks like right now, and especially the American League. I don't want to jump into the National League. I'm sorry, I don't watch a lot of National League. Forgive me. But I'm looking at the AL Wild Card race, and the Yankees, Red Sox, and Astros make up the wild card teams right now. The Red Sox have a half-game lead on the Astros, and they are trailing the Yankees by a game. New York lost today, it looks like, or they lost yesterday. They had a game in hand on the Red Sox, and they lost it. So the Red Sox are a game behind the Yankees. They are a half a game up on the Astros. So that means that all 3 wildcard teams are separated by a game and a half right now. And then you have the Cleveland Guardians, who are on a tear. They've won 9 out of 10, including 4 in a row. And then you have the Texas Rangers, who were on a tear, but have cooled off a little bit. They're still a pretty good baseball team. Those 2 teams are 3 games out. The wild card race is pretty tight. The Rangers and Astros and Mariners. The Mariners are a team I didn't mention. The Mariners are leading that division right now. They're a half a game up on Houston. So again, you have Houston, New York, Boston, and Seattle literally separated by 2 games. And then you have Cleveland and Texas, who are tied right now in the standings by games and by points percentage, who are 3 games out of a playoff spot. And then you have a clear number 1 right now, which is Toronto, and then a clear number 2, which is Detroit. So we're really looking at the final 4 playoff spots being divided among 6 teams. Because I believe or first of all, you're guaranteed, I would say, to get two from the American League East. You're guaranteed to get two from the American League West, and then you're guaranteed to get the winner of the AL Central, which is going to be the Tigers, um, unless something crazy happens, which only leaves, um, which only leaves, let's see, one spot left, and that one spot is either going to go to a third American League East team or a third AL West team. It could be the Guardians. Um, I don't think so, but but it mostly because it's unlikely that Cleveland is going to be able to keep up this pace, and they really have to keep up this pace if they're going to stay in the race. Um, they will benefit from the fact that, like I said, Seattle, Houston, Texas are going to be playing each other, and there will be losses in there. Boston and Toronto are playing each other. Not that we're really worried about Toronto not making the playoffs, but like you're either going to get the Red Sox, or you're going to get the Rangers, or you're going to get the Guardians. I think the Astros are probably a safe bet to make the playoffs. I think the Yankees are a safe bet to make the playoffs. The Red Sox have a harder schedule. They're playing Detroit and Toronto, the clear number one and number two that I talked about. So it's the Red Sox, Guardians, Rangers, with the Red Sox having a 3 game lead, or I should say a 3.5 game lead on on the uh, on the Guardians and Rangers for that wild card spot. Um, it's going to come down to the wire, and I think if you're a Red Sox fan, which I am, you're happy that we're in the mix. We're comfortably in the wild card mix. We are not the Guardians or the Rangers. We don't need a lot to go well for us. We're not Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City's practically eliminated. I know mathematically the A's, Rays, and Royals are in it, but it's over. You're not making up 6.5 games if you're Kansas City, and they were a playoff team last year, but you're not making that ground up with like 12 or 13 games left. Not when the other teams ahead of you are playing each other, right? Because while there will also be losses in that mix, there will be wins, obviously, too. So I don't think they're in it, but like the Red Sox are comfortably in it. I mean, they're not comfortably secured in a playoff spot, but they're in the mix. They're not hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. They're just hoping to maintain a steady pace and get into the playoffs. And so they are where I wanted them to be. They were in the mix for the division up until the weekend. But they're what, 5 games out of the division now. Again, that's too much ground to make up. But can the Red Sox still be the first wild card? Yeah, they're only a game behind New York. And the Red Sox are playing the A's this week. Then they're playing the Rays. So they've got 6 games there. The Red Sox should win 4 of them. You win 4 of them. Maybe the Yankees go 3-3 over that 6 game span, or even if the Yankees go 4-2, then you're heading into that final stretch. And the Yankees, sure, they get the Orioles, but we've seen the Orioles be spoiler before. And the Twins, they've got nothing to play for right now, but you the Twins had a hard time beating the Yankees in the playoffs, so maybe they can beat them in September. So it's not out of the question that the Red Sox get the number one wild card. I might be wish casting there, but it's likely that you get a scenario where the West teams are playing each other and the East teams are playing each other in a wild card. That's entirely accurate and or possible. And if that's the Mariners and Astros, or the Mariners and Rangers, or the Astros and Rangers, somebody in the AL West is getting their heart broken. Because if the Red Sox make the playoffs, that means that somebody in the AL West who's currently hanging around is going to get kicked out. Because again, math is helpful. If the Red Sox, Yankees, and Blue Jays get in from the East, that's 3. You got Detroit in the Central. You got whoever wins the AL West is the 5th team, and then you've got one of the others being the 6th, and then the last one is kicked out. They don't make it. So look, like somebody's going to get their heart broken. It's either going to be a team in the AL East, like the Red Sox or the Yankees. Seems less likely. It's more than likely going to be a team from the AL West. And, like that's what makes this pennant race fun. That's what I said at the beginning of the show. I think this is one of the more enthusiastic um, weeks or two of baseball that I can remember with all the changes going on in the standings, especially in the American League. You know, in the National League, it's a little less tight um, at the top, right? Yeah, I think you've got clear division winners in two out of the three, just like you do in the AL East, or excuse me, in the American League. But it's a little bit less tight outside of, well, I mean, I think you've got a clear one and two in the wild card. So I shouldn't say it is less tight in that regard, but I'm looking at the standings right here. You have you do have a clear top five, but in terms of who's going to be the sixth team, it's just as close as it is in the American League. The Mets only have a game and a half on the Diamondbacks, who only have a half a game on the Reds, who are tied with the Giants, who only have a 2.5 game lead on the Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals, with their sub 500 record and their minus 57 run differential, are going to make the playoffs, but mathematically they're there. Although, like I said, 4.5 games in 12 games is not easy. But are the Giants in it? Yes. Are the Reds in it? Yes. Are the Diamondbacks in it? Yes. And the Diamondbacks sold at the trade deadline. So yeah, you have a lot of variance there. The Mets have been awful in the second half. The Giants have been terrible since trading for Rafael Devers. The Reds are up and down all year long. But when six teams make the Major League Baseball playoffs from each league, yeah, anybody can get to the World Series. Baseball's weird. It's like kind of like the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we'll see what happens. It's gonna be a fun couple weeks. We'll get you stay tuned because we'll get you updated on it, I should say, as each week progresses. I think a week from now we'll have obviously an even better look at what will be happening in October or what could be happening. Um, but it's going to be a fun time. So I appreciate you all tuning in. That's going to do it for this episode. Um, Hopefully the Red Sox have a good week against the A's and the Rays. They're heading down to the Trop for a weekend series. You know, the Rays like to spoil. So that'll probably be the next time I tune in with you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your week. As always, you can like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on socials at Homefield Pod. But until next time, my name is Will Highland, and this has been Homefield Advantage.